Good afternoon and welcome. I'd like to welcome you to the 11th Annual Silver Circle Honors. I'm Steve Novak, President of the Chicago Midwest Chapter. I'm so happy to see so many of you here today. Every year when we do this show, we go out of our way to make sure that the Packers aren't playing at home. This year we went even further. We made sure that the Packers weren't playing at all. And for a lot of you, we made sure that the Brewers, unfortunately, were not playing at all. I'm sorry. Coming from Chicago, I'm really sorry. I wanted the Brewers going. If they were going to beat the Cubs, I wanted them to go all the way. But having said that, we're going to talk about the event at hand. We gathered today to celebrate those who have made significant contributions to Milwaukee and Madison broadcasting for more than a quarter of a century. And we celebrate our colleagues' hard work, many talents, and commitment to excellence. Before we start, I'd like to say that we'd like to send our deepest condolences to the family of Tom Hooper, a 2010 Silver Circle honoree from WITI, who passed away after spending more than 35 years in the business. And our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Prior to today, 57 local television professionals have been inducted into the Wisconsin Silver Circle. I'm pleased to tell you that we have 20 of these past honorees with us here today. I'd like to ask them to stand and remain standing until every name has been called. And if you can please hold your applause until the end, we won't delay this program. And I will also tell you, I am going to try really hard not to botch the names, but I don't promise anything. James Angeli, Sean Downs, Joyce Garbasiak, Mike Gusha, Daniel Jones, Dennis Kraus, Marianne Lazarski, Tony Lucas, Kathy Michaelby, Dan Needles, Jim Paschke, Ted Perry, Tom Pippins, Renee Raffelli, Gary Rystad, Sally Severson, Tim Van Voren, Ken Wainscott, Joanne Williams, and Jim Wilson. It's now my honor and privilege to introduce today's MC. She's a respected Milwaukee journalist who has worked for a couple of local television stations and in Chicago. She currently hosts Milwaukee Public Television's award-winning Black Nouveau program and is a 2009 Silver Circle honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Joanne Williams.
So thank you very much, Steve. Thank you all for coming today. You know, Steve was very gracious and asked me to help him make sure he got all the names pronounced correctly. However, the ones that were a little shaky, he didn't ask me about. So I thought, you got those. Next year, Steve will go through the whole list. Yes, my name is Joanne Williams. And as we all know, when you're doing television news, you go out on the street and you meet lots of people, and since I don't do day-to-day news anymore, people will come up to me and they'll say, "Oh, you're still at it." And I'll tell them, "Yes, I'm still at it. I'm at PBS now, and I host Black Nouveau." And they will say, or else they'll say, "Oh, I know you. I know you." We've all had this experience. "I know you. Your name is Joyce." And I'll say, "No." They'll say, "Yes, it is. Your name is Joyce." And I'll say, "No, you're thinking of Joyce Garbasiak." Yeah, that's it." I'll say, "No, Joyce is taller and blonde." And they'll say, "Oh, okay." Sometimes if they're really, really insistent, I will just say, "Yes, I'm Joyce," and just keep right on going. Joyce, do you ever get asked if you're me? So that, you know, that brings your ego down to ground level very quickly. and when they still say you're still doing it. So this year, it's full of surprises. This is a year full of surprises for all of us. Who would have believed that we would have just covered the first events and games in a brand new Milwaukee Bucks arena, the Fiserv Forum, and would be looking forward to the demise of the BMO Harris Bradley Center, a building that many of us covered from inception and now construction and soon demolition. Isn't that hard to believe? However, I want to say, and I think you will join me in saying thank you, Lloyd and Jane Bradley Pettit, for what they did for Milwaukee. Yes. Who would have thought we'd be spending so much time talking about midterm elections? And who wants to talk anymore about midterm elections? Let's just get it over with and move on to something else, like the next elections. And personally, I am just happy at all to be here this afternoon, and very grateful that I am. So thank you very much for letting me come and MC today's program, and I hope you enjoy the show. You're going to hear a lot about sports this afternoon. You've already heard a little bit about it. I had a really good reference in my speech about who'd have thought we'd be covering a World Series. Yeah, who'd have thought it? Never mind. We span different eras in today's program. We have a lineup of honorees from a sports anchor who covered everything from bowling to Vince Lombardi. Another sports anchor more familiar with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. We'll honor a sports photographer who has been an eyewitness to some of Wisconsin's biggest games over the last decades. And we're also honoring an engineering pioneer and a trailblazing photojournalist who's been on the front lines of some of the biggest stories in the state of Wisconsin in the last many years. This year's honorees excelled in this highly competitive business and all-consuming business, and we pause here to thank them for sharing their professionalism and their many talents with us. Today we celebrate their countless achievements and their humanity. When we look at who should get the Silver Circle, we look at what they've done professionally. We also look at what they've done outside of the job. Everybody here has also benefited their community, not just their job. So we say thank you for that. As Steve said, we want to recognize the passing of a 2010 Silver Circle honoree, Tom Hooper, who passed over the weekend, who made a great impact on television news in Milwaukee. But let's get started with this year's honorees. Our next honoree is Mickie Leach. He's being presented by 2012 Silver Circle honoree Tom Pippins, who is making his way up the ramp. I'm sure he will explain why he's using a walker. Right, Tom?
You betcha, Joanne.
You
know me.
Yeah, I know you. Take it away, Tom.
Still as lovely and talented as the early 80s, kiddo. Nice to see you. It's a great privilege and an honor to be here today, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody doing well? We'll see if we can get out before the start of that movie. No offense to Joanne and her gracious offer. I had a couple of concerns about the event leading up to Mickey's introduction. One was, would I be blessed to be here after knee replacement surgery, and could I get up the ramp? That may be as athletic a move as I've made in 40 years. Silver Circle inductee Jay Wilson and I are representing the fake body parts division of this year's class. The difference is, and Jay's such a worthy recipient and great guy, Jay came upon his wear and tear honestly. He tried to be an athlete. I kept telling people that. But the truth, ladies and gentlemen, hit me recently like a bottle of Hank Stoddard's favorite, Drambuie. It was all those years of dancing to the tunes of the George Buceteri Trio on dance floors. And Henry, it was worth every moment. My friend, my former boss, it is a joy to be with you and to see you here with Nan and your incredible family. And to each and every one of you recipients, Kent, John, the Mixter, Hank and Jay, quality people as well as incredible professionals. Well, I want to try to get right to it so that we can move forward. And I want to say this to you, that those of you who are here, I agree wholeheartedly. You're more than great pros and amazing people, but you have made and continue to make a difference in the community, which will go on for decades. By the way, Hank, of course, Bowling with the Champs, Anonymous. I didn't realize until later, having met my wife, Sally, that she was on, I think, the bowling game or something, quite a bowler in her own right. And back in the day, they said she looked like Farrah Fawcett, and she won a year's supply of peanut butter. But the story I remember is it was a generic brand, and they never did eat it. It wasn't very tasty. But that's, my wife was the athlete of the family, and is. All of which brings me to Mickie Leach, everybody. The California kid who came east to attend college at Liberty University in Virginia and never looked back. When Mick arrived at WITI-TV in the pre-Fox 6 days of 1987, his wonderful wife, Judy, was pregnant with Jordan, the first of their 4 fantastic kids. Today, Jordan is married, and while we grew older and over 3 decades or so continued to grow older, those kids grew up into terrific ladies and gentlemen. I have never met a dad who loves and is more proud of his wife and his children than Mickey. Throughout the countless miles traveled on the road, covering every major event involving our local teams, the Friday night spent shooting high school football. Did Mickey actually beat deadline? Some of us know this pretty well. Editing with one hand while driving with the other? No, I don't think that there's a report that might have happened, but once or twice. Saturdays with the Badgers, Sundays with the Pack. Throughout all of it, his priorities never changed. Mickey's family always was and always will be number one. And as we all know, who've been involved in the business, that can be a challenge. His handsome but ever-changing appearance was the stuff of legend. Hairstyles and facial hair came and went like so many of his Emmy Awards. The short, handsome look you see here today, but the Leach long hair, well, that look had an identity of its own. One spring training, so many of us know the story, Mickey makes a bet with former Brewers outfielder Greg Vaughn about making the All-Star team. The slugger was chosen for the squad, so Mickey's long hair didn't last. Vaughnie cut his mane off on live television. And truth be told, there was a tear or two shed, reportedly, in the Leach household. But the unflappable sports photojournalist just rolled with the punches. Mick's appearance changed, but the substance of the man never did. In my humble and admittedly biased opinion, Mickie Leach is the most gifted professional behind the sports camera and in the edit bay I worked with in the 40 years I was blessed to be in our business. Whether protecting a big old camera back in the day in a fish tank to allow for underwater shots for the short-lived PIP outdoor segments, and they were short-lived, or being the only photojournalist, including the network people, to follow every spin of the ball thrown by Aaron Rodgers to Richard Rodgers during the miracle in Motown, Mickie Leach set a standard for the market that set him apart. His induction to this select silver circle on talent and longevity alone make Mickie Leach a worthy choice. But he stands out for far more important and long-lasting reasons. It's no coincidence that many of the most gripping human interest stories any reporter did had Mickey's signature all over them. There were plenty of lifetime memories and relationships with great people some of whom look down on us today. Many more who touched our hearts and our souls. And Mick, this is from my heart and soul. You connected with and encouraged every one of them, sometimes in the midst of their suffering. I'm not going to mislead you, ladies and gentlemen. The man is not perfect. He's always had one obvious shortcoming. We tried and tried, but never could clone him. However, Mickie has made up for that by mentoring any and every colleague who approached him, wanting to be the best version of themselves possible. Like Fox 6 sports director Tim Van Voren, Mickie Leach could have moved on to work in any market in America. Fortunately, the Leach family connected with a community and chose to stay here in our town. Mickie lives his faith. It's woven into the fabric of his work and the way he's treated every person he's ever met. He's honest, he's non-judgmental, he's compassionate, and he was always looking to bring out the best in people. The go-to guy in the Fox 6 sports office, a servant leader. But the best part is his humility. On the phone not long ago, Mickie told me that he was shocked to learn that he is in such a select circle. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that the silver circle shines brighter because you're in it, my friend. Mickie, my wife Sally, and I thank you for the gift of being able to share in your special moment. It is an honor we will always cherish. And thanks for being a gift to me and anybody fortunate to cross your path over 3 decades in Milwaukee. I noticed a little tear there, Judy, and I still do that. I always made people cry, and I know in the end it's because they were looking at my mug. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to present on video Mickie Leach.
In his 30 years at WITI, Mickie Leach has become synonymous with photojournalistic excellence. That's a hard thing to define, but a viewer can best understand it this way. You were there because he was there.
Sometimes you look at somebody very young in their career and you can see it. I think we all knew LeBron James was going to be a Hall of Famer when he first came on the scene. That's how I felt about Mickie Leach.
Mark Concannon worked with Mickie in Greensboro, North Carolina, and had a hand in bringing him to Milwaukee in 1987, just in time to cover Dan Jansen at the old outdoor speed skating rink in West Allis. The native Californian was ready for much of the assignment, but not every part of it.
When he gets out of the car in this little windbreaker, and he was just miserable. I mean, it's like, Mick, come on, man. It's Wisconsin. It's December.
Soon the cold months became warm months, and one year became the next. And the sports seasons Mickie was covering started rolling. In 1993, before the Badgers went to the Rose Bowl, they went through a terrifying fan crush at Camp Randall Stadium. You were there because Mickie was there.
He did it with a great deal of dignity. He shot it in a way that wasn't offensive in any way, but it was extremely powerful.
When Danica Patrick and Dan Weldon, shall we say, disagreed at the Milwaukee Mile in 2007, Mickie captured their conflict. When Aaron Rodgers hit Richard Rodgers with a Hail Mary pass on the last play of the night to give the Packers a win over the Lions in 2015, Mickie captured their joy. Some of the best stories in sports occur away from the bright lights. Going beyond the game is much more than a franchise title. It's a motivator to Mickie.
Let's cheer for that!
He has helped introduce some very special people to a wider audience through his lens, and has made some very special relationships through his compassionate approach. He even once profiled a high school track standout who would later become his daughter-in-law.
It's his career, it's his passion. Also, you have to be a reporter. You have to be an ambassador to the station, and he does that very well, and that's very important. He's, I think one of the most respected people in this market.
Mickie was and is a unique talent in his field.
You know how to roll the camera?
He sported a singular look for quite a while as well. Long hair in the back, like really long hair, that attracted its own share of attention. Somehow, Mickie and former Brewers outfielder Greg Vaughn made a wager regarding that hair.
For 3 years, I've been telling him to get a haircut.
And when Vaughn was selected to the All-Star team, he got to lop off the locks on live TV.
It was a huge thing at the time, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen because those of us who knew Mickie back in the day, he really cherished his hair, so he was all in on this thing, and I don't think he ever thought it was going to happen, but it did, and he paid up.
His own look has changed. His cold weather dressing style has changed. But Mickey's personality hasn't.
No ego at all, whereas maybe he should have one because of his abilities, but he doesn't.
Technology has changed a whole lot in the last 3 decades, allowing for one slight change when it comes to Mr. Leach professionally. Nowadays, you are there because Mickie is there.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2018 Silver Circle inductee Mickie Leach, a Hall of Famer since day one. Want to collect your thoughts? I'll be 20 minutes getting down this thing. Love you, buddy. Love you.
You're the best, Tom. Thank you, guys. In a way, I am convinced, and even with some of the conversations that I've had even this morning, that this is actually just a giant ruse. That basically you all just want to see if I actually own a suit. And, speaking of being out of place, I remember covering an event where the incomparable Gorman Thomas was being given an accolade from the Brewers, and when he was finally given the microphone and he went up there, he basically went on to suggest that the best part for him, but I suggest might have even been the worst part, was that his wife was called into extra duty because she had to trim the hair in his ears and in his nose so that he looked presentable. That was uncomfortable then, too, as it is now. But I contend that that did not happen in the Leach household this morning, and I do not have to return the suit until Wednesday. So I'd first like to congratulate the other inductees, Kent and Jay and Hank and Ivan. It's a pleasure to be a part of this with you, to be inducted in this tremendous honor. It is a tremendous honor for me. And to even be having my name along with you, but also on the list of the previous inductees, a lot of you that are here today. This is actually quite mind-blowing for me. And I'm just going to admit openly that I am extremely uncomfortable. I'm not very good at being the center of attention. That does not mean that I am not driven to succeed and that I am not focused every single day to be better than I am every single day. I am. But I just really can't wrap my mind around why I'm even standing up here in front of you or anything that I might have done to achieve this. And then I've decided that this is an opportunity for me to take this attention and refocus it back to those that I believe are the reason that I'm here. I am not necessarily worthy of this, I believe. My first official day at Fox 6 was, as mentioned, December 16th, 1987. And appropriately, we woke up to 16 inches of fresh snow that day. That is still viewed as the blizzard of '87. And I'm a California boy, as it was mentioned. I went to the East Coast, but I never lived north of the Mason-Dixon line, so I do not believe I really knew what I was getting myself into. But I learned quickly what it was to layer up, and then I knew quickly what it was to embrace this family that is Fox 6. Chuck, John, Ann, I want to thank you guys for being here for the support today. You are the management team that directs this ship that we have. But not only today, but you support me every single day. And I appreciate working for you. Complacency is not part of the vocabulary at our place. And it comes down from the top, and I appreciate that. Harkens me back to Jill Geisler and Andy Potus, who are recipients of this award in the past. They were in that position when I was hired. And they took a chance on a young, green, somewhat underdressed photographer. And I am forever grateful for them as I am for you. Jim and Andy, thank you for your leadership. I've worked for 4 chief photographers in my career. 2 of them are in this building today. I cannot thank you enough for the respect, the kinship. You guide me, you chastise me, you challenge me. You are friends, but you are mentors for me, and I'm grateful and thankful for that. Ted, Brandon, you are here as part of my family. This is what we have as a family. Yes, Fox 6 is a family, but also we are in a sports department. I include you in that, Ted. And I appreciate the fact that you're here because we have experienced, we have shared, we have traveled, we have laughed, and we have cried. And I'm grateful for the every day that we have together. And for those that have been a part of this family that are not here today, I'll be looking to reach out to them to thank them. We have what I would call a collaborative process at Fox 6, where there is multiple ideas, and sometimes we would say whether it's a face that's in front of the camera or a name that's attached to a particular element, that's the person involved. Some of you might have heard of this little ditty that we have called the 5th Quarter. My name may be attached to it, but a guy by the name of Von Jones invented it. I'm grateful for that. Ashley Cohen came up with an idea called the High School Hotshot. Gives me upwards of 50 kids a year to be able to interact with and get to know and share their stories. I may be the one who is a part of that, but Ashley invented it. The Beyond the Game that was mentioned, that was the brainchild of multiple people and has developed over the years, but the opportunity for me to be able to share beautiful stories and step into someone's life, that's my opportunity to step around and thank those people that have been doing that for me. Mark Concannon, other than my wife, you have been the longest constant in my life. We go way back to North Carolina. And you probably, of everyone, has put up with the most, with my knucklehead, immature, green, stumbling along. You're the reason why I'm here in Wisconsin. And I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for your guidance. And I am thankful for you being one of my sports directors. Tim and Tom, there are not words to express what you guys mean to me. We have been the constant over the 30 plus years that I've been in Wisconsin. And I cannot thank you enough for the friendship, the guidance. We've shared so much. We've seen so much. None of that necessarily, I think, would have worked as well as it has if we didn't have a connection, if we didn't have a friendship. We've watched each other grow up. We've watched our families grow up. You are brothers to me. You're men of faith, you're men of family, you're men of honor. And I absolutely am a better man because of the time I've spent with both of you. Judy, you've been my rock. It's been explained that I'm Californian, but she's Midwestern. She was a Midwestern farmer's girl when I met her. And I am convinced to this day that she was convinced that I was going to rescue her from these cold, freezing winters that she grew up with. Sorry about that. But you have been and are the foundation of our family. When I'm hanging by a thread, I'll look up, and you're actually that thread. Or if I'm on a mountaintop, I look down, you're that mountain. Or if sometimes I think I'm soaring on the wind, I look back and you're that wind. Thank you, as Ivan said, also for his family, for putting up with my schedule and putting up with, and sometimes feeling like a single parent. I'm nothing without you. I'm grateful to the committee to be able to stand up here as this public example to my kids. I am so very proud of each one of them. I have a teacher, I have a stylist, I have a police officer, I have a filmmaker, a bartender, an esthetician, dental hygienist. Each one of them is blazing their own trail. And I am extremely proud of each one of you. Thank you, in spite of your dad. As it's mentioned, I have covered Super Bowls, Rose Bowls, Final Fours, World Series, championships, and near championships. Those have all been absolutely exciting and amazing experiences. And even as jaded as I am and as experienced as I am, I still take the opportunity to find a moment to take in the moment, to touch the grass or to breathe the air or to just see what it is. But those are all experiences for me. They actually mean nothing if not for the moments. And the moments for me are the people. And I don't even need, as I mentioned, those particular elements. I don't talk about the celebrity. I talk about the real. Tom and I once had an opportunity to spend a little time with Deanna Favre in her Green Bay home. At one point during the interview, I actually had to pause the interview because the three-time NFL MVP was blowing leaves off his back deck. You may know him one way, but for me, that was the real. Or for me, having the joy of being able to chase after a 6-year-old boy and him and hundreds of other kids who were running through this fun and muddy obstacle course. His smile was as big as Lake Michigan because a year prior he was barely even able to walk as he was fighting for his life and the obstacle of cancer. And being able to spend time to get to know his brothers and his mom and his dad, that to me was the real. This is truly an amazing career, one with real power. I don't necessarily say that because we're supposed to change the world. I believe that we are supposed to touch people. People have asked me, what is the best part about what you do? And I say, I get the opportunity to step into someone's world for 15 minutes, share a little bit of their story, and then step out. And that is power. And I, every single time, want to honor that, and I want to respect that. People actually want me to step in and want me to tell the story. And there is no greater reward for me in that process than for one of them to come back to me and say, thank you. And as humbling as that is, I then respond back, no, thank you. Because you gave me the opportunity to tell a little piece of you. And maybe pass that emotion on from you to the viewer and maybe change or touch that one person. That is why today is also very important to me, to be able to take this opportunity to thank each one of them that has allowed my camera lens to step into, if not for 15 minutes, into their world. I always thought that Wisconsin and Milwaukee was a short step for me. As television careers go, 2 years in, you move on. We never really know necessarily what God's plan is. Little did I know that Wisconsin was the plan. Little did I know that Channel 6 was the plan. I did find it extremely poetic for me that as I was finalizing my thoughts on this particular honor, I was but a mere 20 minutes from my childhood home. In the upper deck of Dodger Stadium, reminiscing about some childhood memories that had even taken place in that facility. And yet, being as close as I was to that place, I knew where God wanted me, is this place. I love what I do. I love where I do it. I love who I do it with. I love who I do it for. And I am extremely honored to be able to say thank you to all of you.